Welcome everyone, this is the Gears of Steam podcast where we will talk about all the weird and wonderful things within the steampunk and sci-fi genres. I'm your host, Raven Ashmore, engineer and scientist, and my guest here today is Professor Falconer.
Hello!
And how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So, I would just like to for the audience, would you like to basically talk a little bit about yourself, what you do, in a sense? Yeah.
Okay, well, my name's Professor Falconer, and I have been in the steampunk community for about, I want to say at least a solid 6 or 7 years, maybe even a little more than that, and my main claim to fame is that I am one of the first and I guess only steampunk personal assistants. I am someone who has assisted quite a few names in the community, and I'm proud to say I've made a lot of great friends as a result. I'm also I'm also one of the folks in the community who really enjoys the aspect of social media, and I enjoy talking about the inclusiveness that steampunk should have as an aesthetic, a genre, whatever you'd like, to keep the whole thing fresh and to ensure steampunk's overall survival. In addition, I am also calling myself the steampunk gamer, and I'm doing so by having my own Twitch channel where I do weekly episodes of various playthroughs of video games. I just finished my first game on the channel, which is I played Batman Arkham Asylum, and just a couple of days ago I managed to beat it, so that's my first one. And then I have my flagship show, my signature show, which is Professor Falconer's Gears and Games, where I play as many steampunk games that I can get my hands on. And some will be very obvious, some will have little tiny elements of steampunk, but I want to show the world that steampunk is a big part of gaming, and I want to show the steampunk community that gaming is a big part of our world. So that's what I've been up to, and that's who I am.
Yes, I must say, I'm not really much of a gamer, but I do find your live streams quite enjoyable.
Oh, thank you. I do appreciate it. I try my best to create a fun atmosphere for people to come in and hang out and talk about this, that, and the other, and watch as I fail my way through various video games.
I am the same when it comes to games. I'm not that good at them. So, can you just, explain to me, how did you get into steampunk?
So, my first taste of steampunk actually comes from a weird place. It started when I was a kid, and what got me interested at all was, of all things, the Jetsons. The Jetsons is my intro to steampunk, and it's not a very conventional starting point, but I grew a love for robots, specifically 1950s or 60s stylized sci-fi retro futuristic looking robots like Rosie the robot made in the Jetsons. And from there I started to get more into the idea of robots and gears and cogs and all the things that made them work and put them together in big clanking machinery, and things just kind of developed naturally from there, where I eventually began to start looking for other kinds of robots. Because, sci-fi is a wide-ranging genre, but sometimes you want to find something a little different. And when I was doing that, one day I came across some videos on YouTube from a musician, a steampunk musician named Dr. Steele. Now, Dr. Steele was... I wouldn't exactly call him... Oh, I know he's done a lot of stuff in the steampunk community, but he doesn't... His music and style don't really... or didn't at first really reflect a whole lot of steampunk, but the steampunk community kind of picked up on the little things and ran with it all the way. And so when I got into Dr. Steele, he was already well into his career, And I started watching more of his videos and more of his content, and from there, I discovered that there was an online community for him, the Toy Soldiers. So I went to toysoldiersunite.com and I checked out their forum, and from there, I got even further into the world of steampunk, and I began to realize that it had a lot of the things I really appreciated. I love the aesthetic and the form over function and the big clanking robots with the huge turning gears and the huge machines and just that sort of whimsical style of an era that never existed really, really captivated me. And so from there, it just went further and further and further, and next thing I knew, I went from my real name, which is, my first name is Alan, and I went from there to developing Professor Falconer, and I haven't looked back since. It's been a wild ride, and I always look forward to exploring more of steampunk every day.
Yes, I must say, I may have been into steampunk for some time, but I've only scratched the surface, as it says, as I say. It's quite a large community that just spans a very wide breadth. Because steampunk can pretty much, it can be anywhere and any kind of thing. There's no specific rules, and I love that. That's what really attracted me towards the whole kind of steampunk aesthetic.
Oh, absolutely. I think that steampunk is one of those wonderful things where there's so much you can do with it. I think that attributes to its staying power. There's so many areas of steampunk where, I mean, you said you were just scratching the surface. Steampunk itself has barely scratched the surface in terms of its true levels of depth and where it can go. I mean, we have a what I consider to be a problem, frankly, in the world of steampunk, where we tend to focus on two different locations, either London, not even England, but just specifically London, or the Old West in the United States. And that is something that, I mean, those areas are both fine. There's still plenty you can do in those areas. But I feel that steampunk needs to start exploring the rest of the world.
I understand that, like, people may not know much about my background, but I'm primarily based in Ireland. Well, Northern Ireland, to be more precise. As you guys call it now. It used to be just Ireland, but anyways. And I've been all over the place, from off the coast of Italy, from southern France to well, where I am now in Ireland. I do find when people do talk about their stories and adventures, they do talk and say that they've visited these places like London and the kind of the Old West kind of style stuff. And I was like, but what's all the other places? There's an entire world out there that we still have to discover.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. In fact, one of the parts of the novel Bone Shaker by Shuri Priest, who I think most people know as one of the probably one of the best modern steampunk novels. One of the things I loved about that is that it didn't take place in either location. In fact, it took place in an alternate version of Washington, near Seattle. And that was an area that was largely unexplored, from what I'd seen. And I think that we would do better as a community if we started exploring more parts of the world. And I don't just mean the rest of the US, I mean Ireland, I mean India. India is such a great location for steampunk because, historically speaking, there's a whole lot of stuff going on over there, and at that time especially. And one of the reasons I feel that people have a hard time going into the rest of the world as far as steampunk goes is because the rest of the world at that point in time really wasn't great. Like, India, like I just said, a lot of stuff going on, not much of it good. A lot of bad things happening in Africa, a lot of bad things happening in Australia, in Asia, in Eastern Europe. Bad stuff is going down in most of the world during the Victorian era. But one of the things that's great about steampunk is that steampunk has created an alternate past that never existed, and in this alternate past we tend to find that things are a bit more idealized. And with that, I feel that it's something we need to explore. It just needs to be done in a way that isn't going to upset people. I feel that's another major hurdle that steampunk will have to overcome in terms of its growth. We're going to have to find a way to kind of rationalize the ideal steampunk past without trying to offend the cultures of those who had some very real problems in that era.
Yeah.
I just realized I'm getting really serious for this podcast.
Don't worry. This is like when we talk about things. I do find that, yes, there is a lot of, you gotta be very gentle with it, and it will take time, and some people will be bold enough to grasp it with both hands and take their time to do it correctly or in a very respectful way.
I agree. I feel that, and that's, you just hit the nail on the head right there. Respect is the chief thing. I mean, you can change a lot of things, but as long as you do so in a way that's respectful, then you can get away with a lot more. For example, there is a book. Oh God, I should know this because I'm on the back cover. It's called The Shadow or something like that. I'm so sorry to the author out there, Diesel Jester. I do deeply apologize for not remembering the title of the book, but it is a steampunk romance novel that is very very Harlequin-esque in that you should probably only read it if you're an adult. If I can, in so many words, it's got some naughty parts, but. It's a book that just talks about a different part of the United States. It talks about the South in the United States during the Victorian era, or during this steampunkified Victorian era, and a great cataclysm that takes place at that time. And you deal with a lot of conflict that comes from the Civil War, which is obviously before the Victorian era, but you're still dealing with the fallout of all of that, and it's handled in a way where this is a southern U.S. that's very different, but is still handled in a way where they address and acknowledge the problems in the real U.S. history, but do so in a way that doesn't, in my opinion at least, that doesn't belittle or insult what was going on in that time in terms of racial tension and class struggle and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I see where that, like, where it comes from. Like, if I'd like to say that in time within Ireland and the specific times, what's it called? The Troubles. Now this is before my time. It happened sometime in just after the Second World War. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've researched it, but it is a civil war that is very complicated in the way it happened, and a lot of bad stuff happened, but I will write about it. There's a lot of conflict before that, even way before, in my time in the late 1800s, that do show that it was building up a long time.
Sure, absolutely.
And these happen all over the world. Just people will write and make stories that basically, in a fictional way, make sense of it. To how do you explain? Sorry, I'm trying to find the words.
These are big issues. Like this is a huge problem that steampunk is going to have to face if it's going to expand. So yeah, I don't know if we can do it in a podcast.
Oh yeah, it's quite a lot of it is very complicated, and it would take a long time.
Absolutely, I've kind of forced us into the deep end here for steampunk discussion. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, don't worry. This is what this podcast is about.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
It's about talking about things that most people wouldn't actually think about with steampunk, you know?
It's true. It's true. And I think you have a lot of options. And, like, one thing that you can do in that case is we've talked about how some parts of the past in steampunk are idealized. Some things just don't happen. One thing that could happen in these cases when you explore the world of steampunk is basically say, because of steampunk, history has changed so much that this thing just never happens in the first place. Now, whether or not people are going to be cool with that is a different matter entirely, but it's something. It's an option.
With people, when they ask me, like, for an example, when they ask me, like, but you said there's an airship war going on between the English and the Irish at your time in 1896. Yes, that's what the time is now. Mm-hmm. And I have to say to them, it's an alternate universe. Yes, it may have not actually happened in their universe, but in my universe, it is very much a real thing.
Sure.
And, like, that's the thing. People don't realize that with people's writings and stuff, either if it's fictional or if it's going off fact, things will change because there's some things that just can't be written down because either the material would be very difficult to read because of how, like, bad or horrible that situation would have been.
It's tricky when you're exploring alternate pasts. You never quite know how it's going to turn out, and you don't really know if it's going to be something that will be received very well by the people who aren't quite accustomed to seeing that in the history books, you know?
Yeah. Sorry, we have gone pretty deep.
We have, yeah.
I just noticed this is
please do feel free to change the topic if you want.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe you said that you were one of the first steampunk assistants. Now, would you expand upon that?
Sure. Well, it's I'm not the first. I know that much. There have been others, but my work with the steampunk supermodel and fashion designer Kato really put me in the forefront in terms of a steampunk assistant, I guess you could say. And it's kind of a weird way to describe what I was doing while I worked for her, but it was unique because in doing so, in my work with her, because of various projects that I was a part of, or the various projects that I led while working with her, I gained a following myself, which I honestly never expected. I didn't think that I would be at any part of the forefront of the various projects that were underway, but it happened, and as a result, the community that we had built was shaped a little bit through. Actually, no, let's be honest here. It was shaped quite a bit through my involvement, and I think people started picking up on that. I was the one who was making all of the various announcements, and I was the one doing the text-based advertising, because I don't want to. The last thing I want to do is overstate my importance in this. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm some sort of arrogant windbag here. I mean, I know that for the various projects that Kato does, or does when I was working for her, such as Steam Girl and Steampunk Couture and things like that, the photos, the visual content, let's say, that was the driving force. That was the big draw. That's what got people's attention. I was the one who served as a sort of sort of master of ceremonies, let's say. I kept things rolling. I informed people about what was going on and when they could expect the releases of various projects and photo sets and things that we were working on. Steam Girl, by the way, is a site for adults only. So no one who isn't considered an adult should visit that site. But the work I did there was what am I trying to say here exactly? Actually, you know what? I've totally spaced out on the question. Oh, right, Steampunk Assistant. So, anyways, sorry, a little scatterbrained. What my work through all of that gave me a following that I did not expect, and as a result, now that I've left Cato's employ, I'm now working for myself. I still have a great vast majority of that following still with me, still looking and checking out my new work, my next projects, things like that. And it's been really interesting and really, really gratifying to know that people have been appreciating my work. And it's been a weird ride, but the work that I did is something I'm proud of. And being able to call myself a steampunk assistant, it's not really a title that many people have, but I wear it with pride. And while I may not be doing any assisting right now, I would jump into it again if I had the opportunity with someone in the steampunk community. So, if anyone out there who needs an assistant, call me.
And I do know that you've I say worked with many people through the years.
Yes, indeed.
Who else have you also worked with?
Well, I have also worked with Thomas Williford. Thomas Williford is, in my opinion, one of the... well, this isn't even in my opinion, this is just straight up fact, is one of the best known steampunk builders. He has created some truly magnificent works in his lab, and as such, his products, his creations can be seen all over. He's been in the world of entertainment for quite a while now. His stuff has been seen on television shows, has been seen everywhere on the internet. He's written books. He's written multiple books that are how-to guides on some steampunk crafts that pretty much anyone can make. And I feel those books are incredibly important because they serve as another entry point for people who want to get into the steampunk community. So I think he's doing some really good work there. I've also worked with Lady Clankington. She is a steampunk icon who many grown-ups may know. She is she's an adult performer, let's say, and she's also a model. She's also a cosplayer. She does a wide range of things, but I think her most well-known, the most well-known part of her career is her adult work, and she does a lot of excellent modeling. She's appeared in multiple magazines. She's appeared in more photos online than I think anyone will know. Her cosplays, her costumes, her creations are also truly exemplary. She's brilliant, utterly, incredibly talented. And I'm really happy I had the opportunity to work with both of them. I also worked briefly with a magazine, the Ladies of Steampunk magazine. That, despite the name, is actually not a adult-oriented magazine. Actually, it's an all-ages thing, featuring primarily women in steampunk outfits and steampunk clothing, or I guess as you would say, outfits and clothing. And the magazine has transformed into Hourglass magazine. Hourglass magazine is one I have not had the opportunity to work with yet, but I do know the editor-in-chief, Anastasia Dragunov, quite well, and I hope I have the opportunity to work with her in the future. I can't say anything more about that. We're still talking, but it's something that could become something very interesting. I haven't worked with, but I've in an unofficial capacity, I've worked with Brian Kessinger, who's best known for his T-Girls series, and also well known for his Otto and Victoria series of books and art prints and things like that. I worked very unofficially. I can't state that enough. I worked very unofficially with him, in so much as I helped man one of his booths at Wild Wild West Con a few years ago, and I helped him out with some comics. That's been my involvement. But he's
helps.
Sure, yeah, and I consider him a friend. He's a great guy, insanely talented. I wish him nothing but the absolute best. That's pretty much everyone I've worked with, but I'm looking forward to working with more people in the future. I would love to work with Professor Elemental. He's one of my favorites in the steampunk community, and easily one of my favorite musicians in the steampunk community. Another band I'd love to work with. They're not actually a steampunk band, but their music meshes very well with the community, I feel, is the Velveteen Band. The Velveteen Band is actually the front man of the Velveteen Band is Baron von Velveteen, who is literally a giant trumpet-playing rabbit. And the two of the main singers are puppets. So really, I mean, with an act like that, how can you deny its greatness? So I would love to work with them in the future. I would also love to work with Talus Forge. Talus Forge is a steampunk model who has really come into her own in the past couple of years, and she is getting bigger and bigger in terms of popularity. I consider her a close friend. I really hope I get the chance to work with her in the future. I could go on and on and on. I want to work with everyone in the world of steampunk. I really do, because it's such a great place to have fun in and create. Sorry, and Lord and Lady Towers. I would love to work with them, and I think those two, my God, I have never seen a pair of creators who make stuff as amazingly, wonderfully crafted as the two of them. I'm sorry, I will stop, but I have a long list of people I want to work with in the future.
I can totally understand. Like, obviously, because where I'm situated, I find that within the 21st century, there are not many people that I probably could or would be able to work with. Like, obviously, Elemental is just a little jump over the water, and maybe one day I could, bump into him. Probably not work with him, but bump, yes. Just, say hi.
Absolutely. I've bumped into him, literally. When we were both at a convention in Tucson, Wild Wild West Con, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
And while he was walking around, I literally bumped into him. So it's easy to do. It's not difficult at all. He doesn't look where he's going, so it's
yes.
it's pretty easy.
I've had him on recently, and he was a delight to be with.
Oh, he really is.
So cheerful.
He really is.
But yeah, that's what I find with steampunk. It really does feel like it gravitates more to the West Coast and like the southern kind of part of England, like kind of southeast part of England. It really does feel like they gravitate towards them, because seriously, here in Ireland, in Northern Ireland more precise, I haven't really looked any further than that because I can't travel that far. But like there's the Belfast Steampunk Society, which is a Facebook page for basically any steampunks who are either very active or just like looking at steampunk stuff, can talk and share stuff. And like there's just about 300 members, but someday I would just love to have a tea party with them all.
Oh, sure. In fact, I know of the Belfast Steampunk Society. There was a while back where I had to do a massive project where I had to basically track down every single major and minor steampunk convention, event, and organization. And actually, I came across them in my grand search around the world for steampunk stuff.
Yes, I've recently joined. I when I first started steampunk, I was more focused near England or in America, but then I realized, hold on, there's a group that's literally right beside me. Maybe I should go look at that.
Good idea. Yeah, I mean, one of the best parts for me in terms of finding a steampunk community to be a part of was that I was able to find the toy soldiers. They were instrumental, if not vital, to my continued work and involvement in the steampunk community, because where I live, there really isn't much of a steampunk community. Like, it's very much not a thing around here. So to be able to find that outlet online was a major influence in my decision to keep pursuing it and to keep looking into it, and eventually why I fell in love with it is finding a community I can be a part of. So I absolutely agree that when it comes to the community, the best thing you can do is become an active part of it by joining some people who also share love and appreciation for it.
Yeah, like I found, let's see, I had to play back in my memory a little bit. Back in 2013, when I first enlisted in the army of toy soldiers, I did find I was literally just starting to look into steampunk, and I was very much reluctant to kind of go ahead and talk to people. But when I finally talked, and I was like, hold on a minute, you all like steampunk? Okay, we can work with this. I like this, and that's why I love that, because with toy soldiers and all, I've had quite a few of them on. And sorry about that.
No worries.
And you know, we all come from a spectrum of, like, you know, with some of our steampunk more orientated, some of our cyberpunk more orientated. We really do kind of come from all different directions, and it's really refreshing to talk to people who do like different kinds of things.
Oh, absolutely. I feel that it's great to have a community of people who share your interests, but it's even greater when that community can also introduce different, unique things, variations, or different aspects, or just different things entirely to expose people to it, so that they too can also learn about them and potentially get involved or appreciate them. I mean, thanks to my work and my involvement, I was able to discover things like diesel punk and atom punk and things like that, and a wide range of punk archetypes that span through history. It's kind of like time traveling, which I think you're familiar with.
Oh,
and it's something where even no matter where I am in time, there's always a different era that I can hop into one way or another and experience. I think that's really, really amazing.
Yes. Well, I do find that we are coming close to the end of the podcast. I'm going to give you a moment where you get to, say to the audience, like anything. Most people who do take this opportunity to actually directly speak to the audience, you should go for the inspirational style, kind of like keep on going, do the things you like, kind of thing. So I will just let you have your about 2 minutes where you get to just have a little monologue.
2 minutes, okay. I don't know if I can squeeze it all in. I as you can tell, I have a tendency to talk a bit, but let me see what I can do here. Hi, folks. So basically, one message that I try to state over and over again in my work, especially with steampunk, is the concept of steampunk is for everyone. Steampunk is for everyone. That's my motto. That is something that I adhere to with an iron grip. And the reason why is because, frankly, it's the truth. Steampunk is for everyone. Now, there are some people who will talk about how steampunk needs to meet a certain set of criteria or a certain set of requirements. Those are gatekeepers, folks, and they're not to be trusted, and they're certainly not to be listened to. If you consider a steampunk outfit to be you taking some felt cloth and cutting some gears out and gluing it onto a t-shirt, if that's your steampunk getup, go for it. Rock it. You should be able to experience and enjoy steampunk any way you want, because that's the best part about steampunk. It's something that that thrives on the artists and the creations that the community actively participates in. So if you see someone talking about how, oh, this isn't steampunk, or this is terrible for steampunk, or anything like that, do yourself a favor. Ignore them. They're not worth your time, because steampunk, as I keep saying, is for everyone. I feel that if steampunk is going to grow, if the community is going to grow, if it's going to survive, it needs to be all-inclusive. No one should be turned away at the gates of steampunk just because someone turns their nose at someone, because they're dressed a certain way, or they have this accessory, or they've just repurposed a Nerf gun. A Nerf gun is just as valid as a steampunk accessory as anything else. Something store-bought, that's just as valid as something handmade. It's not your place to say what is and isn't steampunk. All we should do as a community is accept the people who want to learn more about it, who want to actively participate in it, and who want to enjoy it in a way that's positive, in a way that's creative, and in a way that helps everyone learn a bit more about what this crazy, wacky Victorian sci-fi era is all about. So please, do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Don't take steampunk so seriously. Have fun. Relax. Enjoy it. That's what we're all here for, to have a great time. Steampunk is for everyone. Thank you. That's my piece.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. It was great having you here.
I appreciate it. I had a great time. I hope I can come back. I think we could talk a lot more.
Yes.
I'm sure we could. So please do consider me as a guest in the future. I would love to come back.
Yes, I will definitely keep you in mind.
Wonderful.
I thank you all for listening and for coming to enjoy this podcast. If you want to see any more of Falconer stuff, I will have the links to his Twitch, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff in the description below. I hope you've all enjoyed, and this is the Gears of Steam. I'm your host, Raven Ashmore, and we are ending the broadcast.